Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Past Prevision, Part 2. Hunter had been watching over the young clone for quite some time now. He noticed how Boba was restless in his sleep, occasionally twitching. Boba woke up with a start and shot straight up, breathing heavily. He looked around almost frantically. Hunter walked over and crouched down. Whoa, you're okay, kid. Hunter placed a hand on Boba's chest. Boba looked at Hunter. He can see the resemblance that he has with his father, but he doesn't look like him completely. Boba looks away from him, almost abruptly, and scoots back away from Hunter's touch, because he looks too similar to his father. He took his knees up to his body, looking away. Boba only then realized that his face was wet. He moved his hands up to his cheek and felt tear streaks that ran down to his chin. He wiped them away, and soon he felt a sharp pain in the back of his head. He quickly moved his hand to the back of his head to cover the pain and made a hissing noise. When you hit the ground, you got a concussion. Hunter moved to put a new med patch on Boba's head. Boba jumped as Hunter moved his hands closer to his head. Hunter pulled his hands back and put them in the air, showing Boba he meant no harm. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. Hunter tried to reassure Boba. I just want to change the med patch on the back of your head. Boba nodded and looked down at the bunk through his knees. He felt as the patch was torn off and felt the throbbing of his head worsen. But as the new one was placed on his head, he felt the pain go away almost immediately. He looked at Hunter and gave him a nod, silently thanking him. Hunter stood as Boba reverted his gaze back to the mattress beneath him. When you're ready, I would like to talk. But for now, I'll leave you be, Hunter said, walking away from the bunks. He knew something was definitely bothering the young clone. He was silent and avoiding eye contact. He was silent and avoiding eye contact with me, Hunter thought. Shouldn't he be okay? He is almost our brother after all. The only thing Boba wanted to do right now was get out of the ship with the 4 clones that looked too familiar to his father and the girl they seemed to have picked up along the way. Boba looked around for his armor and spotted it piled up in a corner of the ship. He glanced around to see if anyone was coming his way. The coast was clear, so he walked over to his armor and reached for his helmet. Boba found himself just staring at it. He remembers the time he picked it up on Geonosis after his father's death. How desperate and lonely he felt. And after all these years of not having to see his father's face, Boba was back at square one. But this time was different. He felt... "Are you okay?" Boba was pulled from his thoughts as he heard a young girl's voice come from behind him. Boba looked down at the girl, furrowing his eyebrows, and was confused by the question. "I saw what happened with the bounty hunter and just wanted to know if you felt okay." Omega looked up at Boba with big eyes. "Yes, I'm all right," Boba responded to the girl's question. He turned back to his armor, trying to gather his things, but felt the gaze of the young girl on his back. He let out a sigh and turned around to see the girl studying him. "Omega, Wrecker needs your help outside," Hunter yelled from the cockpit. "Okay, Hunter," Omega yelled back his way. Omega turned back to Boba and looked up at him, waved with a smile, and skipped away. Boba watched the girl as she skipped out of the ship. He thought that she was very curious, like most children were, but he found himself having the same level of curiosity about the young girl himself. Boba wondered how exactly they came across her. Hunter had wanted Omega to go outside so he could talk to Boba without the chance of her overhearing or interrupting, but also have the input of Tech and Echo. Hunter had the young clone sit down in one of the chairs in the cockpit. Echo was sitting in another, and Tech and Hunter were standing. He seemed almost uncomfortable. He awkwardly sat in the chair, not sure what to do with his hands. "We tried to find information about you in the Old Republic archives, but there was nothing. You don't even have a serial number on your arm." Hunter questions the young clone. There was a long pause. "Would you mind telling us your name or CT number?" Echo didn't want to come off aggressive, so he tried his best to sound somber. My name's Boba." Another pause. "Boba Fett." Boba's voice was soft. Boba says all their eyes go... After what Boba says, all their eyes go wide at the same time, coming to the realization that they were in the same room with one of the only clones that was closest to Jango Fett himself. Hunter was almost compelled right away to yell out a connection between him and Omega, being that they were both pure Jango Fett DNA, pure Jango Fett clones. He stopped himself for the sake of the boy that was sitting in front of him. "So that means..." Echo started. Then he cut himself off as if going to another train of thought and realizing the same thing as Hunter. "That my father is Jango Fett," Boba added after a moment. Later, after the conversation that Boba had with the Batch, he found himself still on their ship that needed repairs. The Batch had flown to the other side of the planet, not wanting to be captured or tracked down by any of the bounty hunters. And of course, Boba's ship was now on the other side of the planet, and he had no way of getting back without the Batch. Boba was now leaning on the door panel of the steps that led out of the Marauder, watching as Omega and Wrecker ran around while Tech and Echo worked on the ship and Hunter was fixing stuff inside. The more Boba looked at the young girl, he saw something familiar and came to his next conclusion. He felt the eyes of someone watching him from behind and knew it was Hunter. Boba didn't turn around. "She's a clone, isn't she?" Hunter was a little surprised. He had figured it out, but it wasn't too hard to tell or put the pieces together. Hunter walked up from behind Boba and stood next to him, leaning on the other end of the doorway. "Yes, she is." Hunter nodded his head towards the young girl playing with Wrecker. "I have never seen a clone of her stature before." Boba said, crossing his arms. It's new to us, too. Hunter looked back at Boba, and she seems to be the only female clone made, but the second of her kind. Boba frowned in confusion, and still not looking at Hunter. What do you mean, second of her kind? She is one of 2 clones that share the same pure DNA as Jango Fett himself. Hunter could see Boba's eyes grow wide in realization. That means I'm the other half, Boba said, more to himself than Hunter. That's why her name's Omega, he thought. Boba didn't speak. He just stared off at the girl, wondering how it so happened that he had managed to stumble upon these interesting clones and find something completely unknown to him. Does she know? Boba asked Hunter. Yes, she knows. Not that you are Boba, but about how she is one half, and that Boba is the first and that you are the first unmodified clone descendant of Jango. He nodded, still not looking at Hunter, managing this whole time just to look at Omega playing. The galaxy works in mysterious ways, Boba inclined. It can be unforgiving, but also rewarding.